You should be in control of your asset. You worked hard for it. If you don't do it, yeah, like you said, the government's going to do it for you. So who do you think is going to be looking out for your interests better? Think about these things ahead of time. There's all kinds of great vehicles out there to take a look at. You just got to take the time to be able to sit down, think about it, plan it out ahead of time, and then execute with the right team.
Welcome to the Build It to Billions podcast, where we guide successful entrepreneurs and investors on the journey from millions to billions. And we believe that the key to scaling and compounding your wealth starts every single day with a mindset and practice of stewardship over ownership and applying billionaire biblical principles. Each and every guest we bring on, we're talking about how to level up our faith, impact, scaling our business and life. And I'm excited about our next guest. He is no exception. He's out of the great state of Ohio. He's an Ohio State Buckeye graduate. He's a certified financial planner. He wrote a cool book called Hip Hop X Finance. It's available everywhere, and we're talking about how to become a financial gangster in all the good ways. By the way, Drew makes it our guest makes it his personal mission to make personal finance easy to understand, and accessible for all, and so much more. Please welcome to the show with me, Mr. Drew Boyer. Drew, how are we doing?
Hey, Brett. Thanks for having me on today.
Absolutely. And for our listeners getting to know you for the first time, would you give us just a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
Yeah, so I've been a certified financial planner for a little over 2 decades now. And I got the great start about 2003 after a tech bubble had burst. And I had been going for about 5 years after that, trying to get people reinvested, get back in the stock market, take some risks, go get some real estate. And then I got my 10,000 hours in there after the 5 years. And then we all got hit sideways by the great financial crisis. And I learned after that I really didn't know anything. And so since then, I've been on this mission to always keep learning and to not think I know everything all at once, but to keep reading, started writing more, get a few years forward, get my certified financial planner degree. And then, COVID hits, we get all brand new rules to the game. And leading up to now, my mission is to help people to make personal finance not only educating, but entertaining. And with the book, I decided to go with the angle from music. The backstory on that was before I had to grow up and get a real job. I was a drummer. Somebody way back in 6th grade gave a spastic little boy a couple drumsticks. I was able to sit down and play. And all the way through high school, got into college, even played up in Brooklyn a little bit after college, but had to grow up and get a real job. And so now, 20 years in, wanted to give back something that I've learned, mixing the worlds of my two loves, which is music and then money.
Awesome. So let's dive right into that. What's the number one secret to becoming a financial gangster in all the right ways?
Number one secret is to just get started. And I would say, write down a plan. Now, I'm in financial planning, obviously. There's a stat out there, I believe, that people that write down a plan they're 80% more likely to get it done. The act of doing something and taking the first step. So write down where you want to get to, where you're at now. And then people like me are going to be helping you how to get from point A to point B.
Fantastic. That's simple enough. Be 80% more effective by just writing it down of where you want to go. So step one is to get started is to write down a plan. What's step number 2?
Do it. You get started. In the book, the first chapter of the book, which I call tracks in the book, is getting off debt row. And it's obviously playing off of 1990s record labels there in hip hop. But I love this quote from Warren Buffett, he's generally accepted as the greatest investor of all time. But it's talking about debt, or if you're in a bad spot, is to, when you find yourself in a hole, stop digging. And then you got to be able to change your behaviors. So that's where you want to start out second phase. Write it down, make a plan, and then start taking some action forward.
Okay, that's great. By the way, are there actual songs that you associate with the track? What is the song for this one?
Yeah, all the way throughout the book are hip hop lyrics, and they're little excerpts. So it's not just one song in particular. It's scattered throughout, along with lots of great graphics in there to keep you engaged. And the book is meant to be more of an experience. So if you're not a person that likes to read, this should bring you into it. There's also an audiobook version where if you're a multitasker, like all of us seem to be nowadays, there's an audiobook. Listen to it. You won't get all the graphics though.
Excellent. What's step number 3 to becoming a financial gangster?
Yeah, so getting out of debt, it's understanding credit. So a lot of people don't know good debt from bad debt. That's a great step there.
What is good debt from bad debt? Let's walk through it.
So Good debt, you would consider something that you're buying an appreciating asset. So you're talking about real estate is a great one to go off of. Does it spit off income to you? That's good. Uh, that's what I consider good debt is something that's an appreciating asset that goes up in value. Maybe you can also, not only grow, but give you some current income. Bad debt, obviously the worst one out there is credit cards. Those are terrible debt. Payday loans, don't even get me
Yeah.
started on those. They should be outlawed. That's bad debt, something that's costing you a ton of money that may or may not be going to something that's an appreciating asset.
Awesome. So, has anyone ever asked you to rap or to get up and freestyle?
Thank God, no. I'm a drummer. I understand the beats.
Yeah.
That's what's drawn me to music is beats,
Yeah.
and my best friend's a bass player. I've never really thought about the words they're saying or anything like that, but the catchy hooks, that's what I get into.
Who's your favorite hip hop artist of all time?
Whew, that's hard. It's like asking who your favorite band is. So I grew up in the mid 90s. So there was the Dead Poet Society of Biggie and Tupac. They land pretty high up. Probably my favorite group, I would go with Wu-Tang.
Awesome.
Yep.
That's great.
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah. For those who grew up in the '90s, right? Like me and Drew,
Hmm.
all the names, all the hip hop stuff. That's really cool. Cool. What's secret number 4? We've talked about, get a plan, right? Go ahead and start working the plan, do the thing, take action, get out of debt, understand, credit, good and bad. What's secret number 4?
Yeah, the third track is about, how do you make money? And so you can either work for somebody, which is not bad, or you can be an entrepreneur. And so I focus a lot more in the book on entrepreneurism. Even if you are working a job, you can have a side hustle and still be an entrepreneur that way. So how do you make money? And then all those kind of tips about how to use that towards, yourself on tax consequences and how to make sure you're saving back and making and giving yourself raises.
Awesome. Speaking of taxes, like what's been the biggest frustration with capital gains taxes when, either clients exit or 1031 exchanges that can be frustrating, right? What have you found to be, some of the bigger frustrations for planning when it comes to capital gains tax?
So I would say on capital gains that a lot of people don't understand on your own home. If you've been living there 2 out of 5 years and either you're single or married, you're allowed to keep a gain up to about a $500,000 right now is the way the current tax code is. Um, a lot of people that were buying crypto a couple of years ago or stocks and they don't understand the difference between a retirement account, which shelters these things for a little bit, or tax deferred or tax free, versus a non-retirement account, which is just open ended. So if you're buying and selling without any thought put into it, you're probably going to have some kind of gains that you're going to have on there. Another thing that we've done that is not so frustrating, but it's trying to take making lemons out of lemonade. Or lemonade out of lemons is going in and when you do have a market sell off, purposely selling something at a loss to have a paper loss, but then getting back invested so you can carry that forward and deduct it off of your taxes. So I think people that don't work with a professional as a CPA or working with a financial planner that can help give you some of these tips, you're going to have lots of frustrations if you don't plan these out ahead of time.
Let's talk about sheltering, right? So the tax-free component, right? So the gains and the dividends and the buying, selling within IRAs or 401ks and such. So talk about the power of compound interest. I think sometimes it gets missed. Like they go, okay, I'm gonna put X amount and I'm going to be, deferring like an IRA. I'm going to be deferring this tax until a later date. But not just that, but within the 20 or 30 years, it's within this, this IRA, right? Or this 401k. The buying and the selling and the strategic nature of that, of not being constrained by, oh, am I going to get taxed or not or whatnot, right? And then also on the cash flow and the dividends, that's just, compounding. What would you call that, right? What would you just call that compound interest or complex tax-free growth or walk us through that a little bit? How would you phrase that?
Yep. So it's definitely compound interest. The act of letting something just grow on itself. Heck, even in a bank account, if you're making 3 or 4% in a high yield savings account, that's compounding on itself. You're investing in the stock market, you're taking more of a long-term view that is growing. Now, depending on what vehicle you have in it, that's where you have either tax-free if it's in a Roth, tax deferred if it's in a typical 401k plan, or it's just a non-retirement account where it does not have anything around it. You have to be very relevant and cognizant of what taxes are going to be affecting you ahead of time before you get into that. Big rule is, what's the difference between a short-term gain versus long-term? It's a year and a day. So for anybody out there that if you're trying to get, that's why when you're doing flips, if you're going into housing and you're doing a flip on a house, if it's less than a year that you've held it, you're going to get taxed at normal income tax rates. It's going to get added to your income. Whereas if you held it for a year and a day, then you get maybe possibly a favorable long-term capital gains tax rate.
Yeah. And so to that point, right, if you're getting these dividends from either stocks or you're investing with in your IRA into, self-directed into real estate, and you're getting cash flow, and you're buying Bitcoin at 50,000 a coin and selling at 100,000 a coin, like all of that is sheltered within there, right? So I'm trying to articulate for even my listeners, for what we do, right? The difference between just, I invested at 10% and it compounded, it's going in there. It's never any tax within that vehicle, right? Let's say that versus I invested at 10% and I'm getting taxed along the way, right? One is sheltered, one is not. I guess maybe it's sheltered compound interest. Is that what you would say?
Yeah, the vehicle that you put in, so some of it is the difference is, are they already tax dollars? And did you get it into this Roth IRA?
Right.
So if you got it in there and then you have to keep it at least for 5 years, typically speaking, you had to be age 59 and a half. So in order to get some of these tax benefits, right, we can call it that, you have to play by the rules that are on the books. And so being cognizant of when you need your money and then what benefits you can get from that, that's the big difference in all these.
Yeah, I think I call it like tax engineering, right? And not so much just like the Roth where you're tax free after you've already paid the tax, but like a traditional IRA, right? Going in there and knowing that I have the freedom. I think I would call it sheltered compounding interest, right? Where you're protected to buy and sell investments, to take dividends, or at least when I say take, I mean the actual IRA is taking it. It's going back inside of that. You're not taking it personally, because that'd be a distribution that'd be taxable, right? So just that kind of concept there. Part of what we do, you may or may not know this, Drew, is we help people build capital gains tax exit plans where people are selling highly appreciated Bitcoin business or real estate, multi-million-dollar gains. And so some people, like, we have a deal in Texas they were working on, and it's like, it's 20% because it's just federal, right? Because it's not a state that has state income tax. So there's no cap gains or income tax on that gain on that sale. However, that federal is 20. And so if someone's selling for 10 million is going to pay 2 million of tax. That's one consideration. But the other big consideration, I think it's missed sometimes, is the nature of sheltering the income from that 10 million that's invested that doesn't have to pay the person. And therefore it can be buying and selling, different assets. And for the most part, it never ever pays tax at the trust level. And so I'm really asking in a way to like think through this for people, like, because the person might, like, for example, we have a very clear fact pattern. Someone in a business might be selling a business, but they're staying on for the next 2 to 4 years, right? They're getting an earnout. So they sell 60% of the business. They're getting paid, let's say 2, 3, 4, 500,000 to stay on every year as a salary. Well, our trust can sell, defer their tax, not only their tax on their 20% they would have paid on a 10 million exit, but also all of the income. And let's say the trust is earning 7 or 8% per year. That's 700,000 or 800,000. Well, they don't have to take that 700,000 or 800,000, at least for the first 2 years, no income, right? So there's no tax paid on any level. And then in year 3, they can kick it on, or year 4 or 5. We typically like to say year 3 or 4, but the point is they can start to engineer when they take the cash, because their income might drop after they retire. And so maybe it's called tax compounding or cash flow engineering. I don't know. I'm trying to think of something like this. I'm seeing if you can help me with this.
Financial and tax engineering. And it's really vitally important, like what the good work you're doing is, if you're going to sell, if you can be able to spread these things out and structure them to what works best for you, that is the whole point. Don't get paid 100% up front. You're going to get hit with taxes. We do this a lot where you're doing something over multi-years. And it's really, really important to know when you get what and what you're going to be paying on taxes.
Oh, so good, right? Yeah, I think you put it really well. Financial and tax engineering. Okay, so back to the secrets, right? So we've talked about, how do you make your money, right? And then taxes. We've kind of touched on this and such. Did you want to finish any other thoughts on that part of that track of the book?
No, that's pretty much it, is getting in there. The next thing that I would go to after that is, making sure that when you have income coming in, don't overspend, right? And so this chapter is called Mo Money, Mo Problems. And it's kind of going in and looking and saying, and financial engineering and tax engineering, and don't overspend and have lifestyle inflation, right? So that one's all about 50 Cent and how he had made some, as far as a big taxable gain, he got into vitamin water was his big deal. He'd made $100 million after taxes, but he was wise enough on the front end to take equity deal rather than just get paid something as income and got taxed on it. So exactly what you're doing, a lot of people were working with him, hopefully as a team, to be able to figure out what he got when, and he didn't get taxed $150 million all in one year. I'm sure he spread it out.
Perfect. I love that. Yeah. More money, more problems. That's good. Don't overspend, and then make sure you're being wise about how you're taking income, whether it be through equity or really taking ownership. Therefore, you're not taking it right away, and you can let it obviously build up to a year plus a day, and then you're in cap gains tax treatment. So this is all, I think, like in a Rubik's Cube here, right? Everybody, we're moving this cube around, and me and Drew are trying to figure out ways to get all the colors on the same side of the cube here. That is, in each cube for each person is a little different, right? And so, but there's some common themes here. Okay, that's awesome. So that's next chapter. What's the next one?
Next one is how to invest. So you're making money, you've gotten out of debt, you understand credit, you got money coming in, you're not overspending, and then what are you doing with this excess money to actually go and make investments? That story is all about Beats by Dre. So probably the most successful to date hip hop product. And it was just finding a solution for a problem that he saw that was out there. And it roots back into Napster days when music, late 90s, everybody was sharing it for free, record sales plummeted. He came in, and after the Apple iPod, which I don't know how many people are actually remembering about that, but had 10,000 songs on it. It had about 10-hour life battery on there. But they came with this super cheap pair of earbuds. And he looked at that and he said, it's bad enough they're stealing my music for free. Now you lose the feeling of his bass heavy, thumping music that he was creating. So he came up with with headphones, right? Beats by Dre. And he tested it out. He got a team approach. And it's a phenomenal story of going back from how to invest, where you get an idea, investing in yourself or finding a solution to a problem, and then going through all those stages. And it's not going to be an overnight success that's there. And even at the end, they kind of boasted about it ahead of time. Cost them about $200 million. Apple comes in and bought them for 3.2. They get online and made some ill-advised statements like, if you're signing an NDA, don't talk. That's the whole point, which is very important for business deals, is to keep your mouth shut until the check cash. But he got basically in trouble for coming out and announcing the deal ahead of time. Cost him $200 million. And he made just a little bit less not to become a billionaire. And that was Apple's point to him.
Oh, man. Yeah, it's that's what an amazing story, right? And
It is.
And Dr. Dre, what a talent. So he first of all, good for Dr. Dre to not like just let the Napster thing and the iPod thing, kill everything he's doing. He said, okay, how do I make this a better experience for my person that I'm serving, which is the, consumer of the music, but also make some money. So he comes up that he goes for it, he builds it up. And then did you say he got what was the offer from Apple? What was that?
It was $3.2 billion.
$3.2 billion. And Dre had put about 200 million into it. And
we don't know what he started it all. So he had a partner, Jimmy Iovine, because around the same time, a shoe company came to him and said, you should make sneakers. And Jimmy Iovine came in, who had known Dre for a while, and said, don't do sneakers. Let's do speakers. That's what you know. Stick with what you know.
Yes.
And so I don't know how much capital they put in. I know they had brought on a hedge fund company to help them out as well.
Let's call it 25 million. Anyways, they get an offer for 3.2 billion, but then he speaks too quickly and breaks the NDA. And so the offer changed and dropped. Is that what you're saying?
Yep. 0.2, lost $200 million off the deal. 0.2. It's a big number.
It's a big number. Okay, so those are some lessons. Okay, so don't overspend and don't overspeak too soon. Okay, all right. What's the next lesson?
I like that. Very good.
Yeah.
So after that, that's just the story of investing and how to go in. And there's lots of different ways you can invest, where it's, fixing a problem you see. Investing yourself is a great one. Benjamin Franklin came out and said an investment in education is one of the best ones that you can make. Warren Buffett, again, he would tell you to go in and get into like a speaking class. But it's always about making yourself better and learn more, education, make yourself more valuable, and then knowing your value when you've created it.
Hmm. How do you know your value when you've created? Like what's the insights? Any insights on that?
Yeah, I could go on right now to say I became a CFP. I could go around and look at what my competitors are, for similar people. What are their pricing on things? Am I getting paid what I should be getting paid? Always looking, not just make sure you're getting paid the right amount, right? Look around your peers. It's never been easier to look around and do this with the internet. So that's what I mean on that.
Mhm.
Same as much you would do with real estate. If you have a home in a similar spot and you know the square footage, you know the comps, you know where that is right there.
Excellent. Okay, great. Let's do one more. This is so good. What's the next track here that we should touch on?
Yeah, the next track. So this is the funniest name I had to go with because we're talking about taxes, we're talking about insurance, and we're talking about legal. All super, super important things in personal finance, but extremely boring to most people. I have them fall asleep in the office when we start talking about this. So I had to come up with a really good name. I went with Back Your Assets Up. And I'm going through, and if I'm talking about wills, I would go in and I use this Nas record, Illmatic, so I call it Willmatic. What are your basic things you need to have in place? Building your right team, have a CPA. The tax code, and this is the best thing I've heard, is look at it as like a coupon book. If you don't know what coupons to clip, you're going to be paying full price. So work with somebody that knows how to read it. There's about 7,000 pages in our tax code. And I think it's closer to 70,000 when you add in all the treasury guidelines that they put underneath it. You or I have no time to read through this or interpret it. So hire the right team there. Insurances, it's a lot more than just life insurance. If you're in a business, I have a buy sell with another financial advisor. Something happens to me and I die. I'm going to make sure that my wife and my family are taken care of. It's not just life insurance if I die. What about my business? Going in there, and what if you get sued? We have errors and omission insurance. So understanding all the insurances that are out there, and then legal, as you're referencing with trust. These things can be insanely complicated, and you got to have an attorney that's very well versed in this, whether it's for personal or it's estate or business. You got to have somebody that's the actual expert in that can help you structure that the right way. But most everybody out there should have a will just to start out with. You should be able to title your accounts correctly. If you're married, have your wife and you both on your bank account. Just because if something happens to me and my wife isn't on it, guess what happens when I die? It gets frozen and it goes to probate court. The big thing is keeping things out of probate and getting your wishes done correctly as you would want them to happen in the most tax engineered and financial planning engineered specific for you guys in a way of doing that. So you're paying the least amount, earning the most, and passing on what you made so it doesn't go to the government.
And so you can make a bigger impact, more freedom, more impact, help MVPs and do the things that are passionate for you and your family. We're speaking with Drew Boyer, everybody, BoyerFinancialGroup.com. It's BoyerFinancialGroup.com, BOYER financialgroup.com. Okay. So I love the way you put that. If you don't use the coupon, you will pay full price, right? And the tax code is like a coupon book, everybody, right? And you got to know how to read the coupons, right? So that's part of why you have the CPAs. That's part of why you study and you pick up books but don't assume your CPA knows all of the coupons because it's, like Drew said, 7,000 pages. I've heard 10,000 pages. Like they can't possibly, right? And at least I'd be a specialist in all of that, right? So you do have the CPA, but you also want to look for the tax attorney, right? You might want to look for a tax attorney who's also a CPA. That's part of what we pride ourselves on is we partner with a tax attorney and a CPA who's like a niche focus in capital gains tax solutions to help people build out these complex trusts that help people to sell, defer the tax, and then invest however they like. Which, by the way, I'd like to touch on this, Drew, to see what you think.
Sure.
Have you ever heard of a deferred sales trust before?
I have not.
Okay.
But I've probably heard a different version of what you're saying.
Yeah. So let's walk through it. This is kind of curious because you've been in the industry for a while, right? And by the way, I started out at Marcus and Millichap. Before that, I was at Wachovia Securities. I securities license at one point, but I really practiced multifamily brokerage for people doing 1031 exchanges. The market crashes. Clients, friends, and family lose half or all their wealth because they're not diversified, they're not liquid, they're in too much debt. A lot of things you're talking about, right? And they're being forced to, in their mind, because of the tax, overpay via these 1031 exchanges, which we call Blockbuster, right? And so we figured out a way to do a Netflix version where you can sell real estate, Bitcoin, public or private stock, primary homes, really any asset that has $1 million net proceeds, $1 million gain big enough. And you can do an installment sale method, right? Where it's a 453 installment sale with a trust, and the trust ultimately sells it to the buyer. And so what happens is the funds hit Charles Schwab, and then the trust owes back the money plus a rate of return over time. But this is the best part. There's no timing restrictions. There's no asset restrictions about what you can invest into. As long as it's not personal, that becomes a taxable event. But it's kind of like an IRA for your exit, right?
Yep.
So you sell, you defer massive capital gains tax. You can defer that income tax. You can also partner with the trust to start your next business venture or buy your next investment real estate property, which our entrepreneur clients love. But it's this really flexible strategy most people haven't heard of. It gets confused with the Delaware Statutory Trust, which is just another form of a 1031 exchange security, real estate, securitized real estate that only works for investment real estate. Ours works for any asset of any kind, right? 28-year track record, thousands of transactions. We call it the most vetted tax deferral strategy you ever heard of. Even folks like certified financial planners haven't heard of it. We work with financial advisors to manage the capital once it closes too. So this is all kind of a big thing. But I'm curious, when you hear those things, what comes to mind? And I'm like, you know, are you? I know you're still learning, but you know, if we can help people defer tax, invest how they like to, diversify on these massive exits. What comes to mind, or do you have any other strategies that you tend to use?
Yeah, I would say brilliant first. And it sounds a lot like an annuity where you have a big lump sum that can go in and you're spreading it out over a long period of time. So that's what I'm saying. You can say it specifically what the name that you guys got put through, and then like a concept that would say it sounds like an annuity where it's a big lump sum, and the purpose is to spread it out over a long period of time so that you can help financial engineer and tax engineer it all best for you and make a bigger impact.
100%. And then the second part of this, we have a 2.0 version where we can eliminate the death tax without any charity, life insurance, or gifting required, right? Exemptions are about 28 million now, about married, 14 single, expiring in 2026 unless they change that. But just that whole concept of this 84 to 100 trillion that's transferring in the next 15 years or so from the baby boomers, the largest wealth transfer in the history of the planet, 10,000 baby boomers turning 65 every single day, 80 million in the U.S. alone. And so, Drew, this is what I say, like we're on the front lines of this massive transfer, and either if they don't transfer in a tax efficient, financial savvy way, the government's going to get their hands all over it, right? Which we know, they're probably not going to be very, very efficient with it, right? To say the least.
What do you mean?
If we can help them we can help the folks keep the funds invested in businesses and in stock market and creating housing and all of these things that are going to spur economic growth and actually more taxes overall. To me, it's like, this is exciting, right? Because we can make a huge dent, right? Even be able to give more, but not have to force the charity or force the life insurance, right? Literally, like on a sale, we can eliminate the estate tax on $1 billion exit. One sale, one day, no life insurance, gifting, or charity required. So I'm curious, when you hear that, what comes to mind? Because you've been in the industry for so long.
Yeah, that's the whole point of what we're doing when you plan out something. It's the whole point. You should be in control of your asset. You worked hard for it. If you don't do it, yeah, like you said, the government's going to do it for you. So who do you think is going to be looking out for your interests better? Probably you, right? Not the government. So think about these things ahead of time. There's all kinds of great vehicles out there to take a look at. You just got to take the time to be able to sit down, think about it, plan it out ahead of time, and then execute with the right team.
Awesome. And people want to learn more about what we do, go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. It's capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. We also wrote a book on it called Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan with Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank. You can check that out on Amazon, Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan. That being said, Mr. Drew, are you ready for the lightning round?
Let's do it.
All right. Knowing what you know now, if you go back to your 25-year-old self, what's the one golden nugget make sure to tell yourself to do?
Advice to the younger self that everything's going to work out. There you go.
Perfect. What's the number one book you've recommended or gifted most in the past year?
Ooh, you weren't supposed to see that by Josh Brown.
Okay, perfect. Question number 3. What are you most curious about right now?
The future.
What particular part of the future?
Physical AI.
Like robotics?
Yeah, basically.
Okay. All right. I like it. Next question. Number one leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by?
This is from some neighbors that I had that were down by my first job when I was 18. I was asking for advice, and they said, do what's right because it's right, and then do it right.
I love that. Next question. Number one way you're using ChatGPT.
Not for writing. I have used it for ideas for writing, for outlines. We fed my book into this basically a ChatGPT bot, and it's really interesting. I'm using it as an experiment right now in the background because I cannot put this out to public.
Okay, so good.
Yep.
Last question. After all your success helping all the people you help, how do you best practice a mindset and practice of stewardship over ownership?
I like to say coming in every day and fighting the good fight. And anytime that I can see someone's face light up, having an aha moment, like I didn't understand that I could put my child onto my business and be able to put money into a Roth IRA, and then they get a deduction for their business. It's tax-free for the child and invested tax-free. When they see what the results could be with, whatever interest rate that you want to assume, I love seeing their faces light up and having an aha moment that, that's great. That's what I wanted. That's how I do it.
Yeah, I absolutely love it, Drew. Thank you for being on the show. A ton of wisdom. You handled like a pro all the questions. We dove into your book. I feel like we've all have become more like a financial gangster because of the knowledge and the wisdom you shared with us today. I want to encourage you to keep fighting the good fight, keep helping the people to build financial intelligence and take action on it. Just as important, right? Actually, it's the most important. If you don't take action on any of the stuff that we're saying, none of it matters. And so make sure you're taking action. Drew Boyer, for our listeners who want to get in touch with you, we remind them one last time, what's the best place for them to find you?
Yep. You can check me out on my website, Boyer Financial Group, or you can go to hiphopxfinance.com is on there as well. Find the book on Amazon. You'll enjoy it. Even if you're not a fan of hip hop, it's still very entertaining. That's what I like to do.
Awesome. Thank you, Drew. And also want to thank all of our listeners for listening to another episode of the Build It to Billions podcast. We're also streaming on Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, by the way, and YouTube channels. And we're here on the journey to scale from millions to billions so we can give more all of it away. And we're going to encourage you to do the same. And we're bringing on amazing guests like Drew to continue to sharpen the saw, touch on some fundamentals and also some advanced stuff. But hopefully you're gleaning that you want to build a team alongside of you to help to be a great steward with the wealth, to help to multiply and freedom and impact. Thank you so much for listening. Please rate, review, subscribe to the channel. Share this with someone it could make an inspiration and impact for today. And we'll talk to you again real soon. Bye, everybody.